When I was 16 years old, my father passed away, and this caused me to waver in my faith. I was born and raised Catholic. I wasn't really a practicing Catholic, but I had my beliefs. Well, at that time, I questioned, why would you take my father away from me? So I was angry, upset, and frustrated. I was 17 years old, just got a car, and loved to drive. I was invited over to my friend Anthony's house one summer night and decided to hang out with him. A little about Anthony: he is what I refer to as a required taste. Very dark, messy, and does things for attention, but for some reason I liked hanging out with him because I never got in trouble. A lot of it was my mother couldn't stand him and my father was indifferent to him, but my mother not liking him made me want to hang out with him even more. So we're hanging out at his house in his basement playing video games and chatting. After a while, we were just talking about nothing really, but he made a comment and said, "Oh God." Without missing a beat, he says, "God, huh? You still believe there's a God?" And I say, "I'm not sure anymore. I haven't really seen much proof since my dad died." He quipped, "God is a fraud, and it's all smoke and mirrors." At that exact moment, the lights flickered quickly, and I said, "Did you see that?" He responded by saying, "Need any more proof?" I said, "Dude, let's just drop it." So I got up and he walked past me and went to the bookshelf and took a Bible out. He threw it on the ground and said, "I'll show you there is no God. I'm going to take a piss on this Bible and watch God. He won't stop me." At that moment, I was done and wanted to leave. I turned to leave when I noticed that it got really hot in the room. At that moment, I was done and wanted to leave. I turned to leave when I noticed that it got really hot in the room. My back was to Anthony, but he wasn't saying anything. I got a really bad feeling, like a horror movie, and I turned and seen him frozen in place, his head tilted back, and his mouth open. In shock, I say, "Anthony, are you all right?" And I notice a foul rotten egg smell, and his head snapped back in place, and I see his eyes roll back in the back of his head, and the lights flicker again, but came back on very dim. Thinking he was up to his old tricks, said, "Knock it off." He started laughing maniacally, and his voice started to deepen throughout the laugh. I started to freak out a little and went to leave again. All of a sudden, I feel a hand on my shoulder, and he steps in front of me, blocking my way. I could feel how hot his hand was through my shirt. I pushed him off of me and started moving backwards as he advanced slowly. I trip over the ground and on the Bible, and finally he started talking in a deep, guttural voice in a language I didn't understand. At this point, I am completely believing that he is not kidding. I've known him for years and know that he barely has a grasp on the English language, let alone a foreign one. Not knowing if it would even help, I picked up the Bible, and he notices and winces and moved his head away and fell to the ground with his body kneeling and his head resting on the couch. I open the Bible and just start reading out loud. I couldn't even tell you what I was reading. I was just so freaked out. I turn the page and hear him say ever so slightly, but still in that deep voice, "Stop it." I ignore him and just keep reading. Then all of a sudden the Bible is pushed from my hands by some supernatural force. I look at him and I see he is drooling and his eyes are still white. He says to me, "I've been watching you, and I will always be watching you. I will come back to visit you in 7 years." Right after saying the lights go back to full power, and he is literally thrown on the ground, and he starts coughing and rolling around like he's in pain as the temperature in the room goes back to normal. I stand back as he sits up and says, "What the hell happened?" I say, "Anthony, I have to leave right now." He tries to stop me, but I just run out. I get in my car, and I can hear that voice in my head. Anthony and I stayed friends for a few years after this incident, and he asked me not to tell him what happened. He says he is completely blacked out and doesn't remember a thing. After that, we lost touch, but as I think back on it now, maybe my mother had a point.